Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to A Course in Miracles 365 here on Enlightened World Network. I'm your host, Tomás Garza, and wherever you're joining me from today, I want to welcome you. We've got a very wonderful topic to discuss here today. And well, to be honest, I'm going to say this as the show host and as a teacher of A Course in Miracles. Every day's topic is really wonderful. So if you're happening to catch me for the first time here, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. We've been running this live stream here on Enlightened World Network since January of this year. And we're in the midst of a component of A Course in Miracles called the Workbook for Students. And what we're doing here is I'm presenting one idea a day. That's the way the workbook is devised. It's a series of 365 ideas, which take the form of a saying, just a short sentence. That's the idea for the day. And then the idea here is that you contemplate this idea and that you follow the workbook's suggestions for how to practice that idea. What does that look like? Well, it looks like meditation practice of maybe a different form than you're used to. But of course, as we all know, there are many different ways to contemplate, many different ways to meditate. And well, one simply reads the commentary and practices. So what's the point of all of this? Well, the point is to take that day's idea and integrate it into your life. It's to integrate that into your fabric of being. And that is what matters. What matters is your application of the day's idea. Now, you may know that there are plenty of people who attempt the workbook, who say they try to do the workbook. Well, I've said this before on the live stream, but I'm with Yoda in Star Wars, by the way. Do or do not. There is no try. I keep coming back to that because think about it. When we say we're going to try, we're subconsciously expecting to fail. We are. Harsh but true? Wow, yes, sign me up for that statement, right? Yeah, a lot of things that the Course says, that the Holy Spirit says, may seem harsh. Well, harsh to the ego who wants to always be right. There is most certainly a part of all of us that wants to be right at all costs, and that is the ego, our separate sense of self. So, what we find ourselves doing here is these meditations, these contemplations, these practice exercises help to reorient our mind. And when we say that we're going to try to do something, we're, of course, subconsciously expecting not to do it. The workbook is full of that. So the reason I make this point is that you may have counted yourselves among these people that started the workbook and got to lesson 20. And if that's all you could do at the time, so be it. Because it's not about following this to the letter of the law, right? It's not about if the day's activity, like today's, by the way, calls for a half-hour practice period. If you only do 17 minutes, that doesn't make you wrong, a bad person condemned to a fiery hell. When the gnashing of teeth, fire and brimstone, or the mythical hell from popular culture where a bunch of people are sitting around drinking coffee, standing in a pool of excrement. I mean, you can use another word for excrement, right? We all know this. And then the devil says, okay, breaks over, heads back in. That's not real, right? And we're laughing and joking about it, yet we actually do go through life believing that we're worthy of punishment. Course in Miracles says otherwise. This is really a beautiful course, and I suggest that if you're at all inclined to follow this path, that you do that. that you delve into it. Now, I'm here for questions that you may have, for comments, and if you're ever unsure about one of the ideas that we cover on the live stream, I'd like to know that. Questions are really beautiful, and we've had some wonderful dialogue here in the past few weeks. So feel free, please, to say hello. Type in the comments, whether it's just hi from wherever you're joining us from, or whether you have a question about today's idea, about your spiritual practice in general. They're all valid here, because what you'll find is if you dive into A Course in Miracles, you'll find that it applies to all spiritual traditions. It's universal. You do not have to give up your current practice, your current religious tradition, whatever that may be for you. This is designed to help you on your path. It's designed to help you get in touch with your inner teacher. My job here is to simply show up and teach, and to help you get in touch with your inner teacher, to bring this greatness, this magnificence out of you. It is you. Segues perfectly into today's idea, which is Workbook Lesson 124. Let me remember I am one with God. Okay, if you do nothing else today, repeat this idea. Let me remember I am one with God. Again, we need repetition as adult learners, do we not? Let me remember I am one with God. Yeah, and sit with that and let that resonate. What has happened here in the world is that we have chosen to forget our identity with a capital I, as you'll see here in the workbook. In other words, our self, capital S, source, spirit, divinity, God, name the term. We're one with this. And let us all remember this. In the world we've chosen to forget. We identify with the ego and its vainglorious little temple, the frail human body that does not last, that is subject to all sorts of aches and pains. It's subject to broken bones. It's subject to disease. It's frail and nothing in the end. It's not who we are. And because you're watching this, I know that you know this. There is a part of all of us that remembers deep down our true identity. Let me remember I am one with God. This is a powerful idea. And I'm being very brief here on the live stream today. The suggestion for practicing this idea is very straightforward. Now, Lesson 124 calls for spending a half an hour today. Now, again, if you don't have a half an hour, spend 5 minutes. If you don't have 5 minutes, which, by the way, I doubt strongly, spend 1 minute. And if you tell yourself, and again, I don't believe you, that you don't have 1 minute, spend 1 breath or 5 seconds reciting this idea. It will have tremendous benefit to you. Let me remember I am one with God. Now, if you're following the workbook, it suggests a half an hour. Now, again, that's the exact time that you do it. Could be more, could be less. Doesn't make any difference. Doesn't make you less of a person if you spend 7 minutes on this. This benefit is astronomical. It's beyond words. And that was just a word that came to me that I used. I mean, really, all of this experience is literally beyond words. It's beyond perception. But what do we have to do? Because we're in a world of perception, of subject-object duality, identifying with the ego. We need remedies like forgiveness, like A Course in Miracles, that operate where we are, that operate on the level that we're communicating on, to help point the way out, because we all feel and know in our hearts deep down that there's more than just paying the bills. I mean, that's important. Yeah, of course it is. But there's more to existence than just that. Much more. And because you're interested in spirituality in the first place, you do know this. You do know this. We've chosen to forget who we really are. So just as easily as we chose to forget, with the power of decision and free will, which, by the way, we have never lost and cannot be taken from us, we can choose to remember. Just as easily as we've chosen to forget, we can choose to remember. And however the time frame looks today, spend some time in quiet contemplation of this idea. Let me remember I am one with God. Now, the workbook has some very interesting commentary here, and I want to call this to your attention. The workbook rightly points out that you may not necessarily feel anything, or you may not see anything, you may not experience anything that's out of the ordinary right away. The point of meditation is not to have blinding flashes of light right there in the moment. Is that possible? Yeah. How do I know? From experience. How does anyone know? Yeah, from experience. Is that the point necessarily? No. No, the point is to sit and spend this time with yourself in quiet contemplation. And the workbook very correctly and very lovingly reassures us that even if you don't feel anything rapturous right away, you don't have to. It's going to come. Trust that these illuminations will come. They will take different forms for different people, but they are certain. You are certain to have the experience of being one with God, to remember that, and to make this experience constant. A constant living, breathing experience. Why? It is all of our destiny. We're all headed back home, so to speak. And we find, of course, along the way that home's not a physical place. It's not Phoenix, Arizona, or London, or wherever you may reside. We are spirit. We are one with God. So let us spend some time today remembering this. It's a very beautiful and very straightforward idea. And what's really wonderful about A Course in Miracles to me is that the Holy Spirit kind of gives it to us straight a lot of the time. There's very little messing around with this. So therefore, when I teach, I quote people like Yoda, who is not really a person, it's a movie. But the point is, try doesn't get you anywhere. So don't try to repeat today's idea. Do it. Do it. And I invite you to do that and see if you experience something different. Now, if you don't right away, that's okay. Keep coming back. You will begin to have these experiences. If you have practiced a spiritual path for any amount of time, a number of you have been practicing something all of your lives, decades, you'll know that eventually the realizations begin to come, and it's often when you least expect it, isn't it? Of course. So, yeah, and I invite you to just sit with today's idea. Let me remember that I am one with God, and I will see you back here tomorrow. Thank you, everyone, for joining me.